Check this out. I mean, look at this. You see that? Putting hands on her, using force, shoving her. Unacceptable.
Check this out. I mean, look at this. You see that putting hands on her, using force, shoving her, unacceptable. Caitlin Clark is out. But have you seen why she's out? The footage of what happened to her is jaw-dropping. Refs didn't just miss a call or two. They consistently ignored the constant grabbing and pushing. Now Clark sidelined, and the Fever are scrambling without their star. What's really going on in the WNBA? This isn't just bad officiating, it's a crisis for the entire league. We will show you the moments that led to this disaster.
I saw the video Saturday, but then I started paying closer attention to it. I'm just looking, I'm like, why the ref ignoring Caitlin Clark? Like, usually the ref would give them their opinion about the situation, what they saw, right? At least have a quick conversation.
Have you ever watched a game and wondered how the refs can just stand there while a player gets clobbered possession after possession? That's exactly what's been happening with Caitlin Clark. The game footage says it all. She wasn't just playing through contact, she was fighting through grabs, schvess, and full-on physicality that goes way beyond what you'd call good defense, and the worst part, the whistle stayed silent.
Why you didn't call the foul? Why why you're seeing it from your perspective? What happened? Have a conversation with him. This dude is blatantly ignoring her, fam. Like walking away from her, turning his head, then he looks at her when she walks away.
There's one play, a late game possession against the New York Liberty, that really sticks out. Clark had the ball, eyes locked on the rim, and Natasha Cloud made clear contact with her. It wasn't subtle for most players. That would have been an automatic foul, maybe even 2-game. Winning free throws, but for Clark, nothing, no whistle. But fam, this is fouling, right?
But fam, this is fouling right here, man. You can't do all this. You can't do all this, man. And they were getting away with it the entire game, honestly. That's why Caitlin was looking a little tired. They were putting their weight on her, holding her for a little extra time so she can't get away. Clark stood there visibly frustrated, and you couldn't blame her. The officiating wasn't just inconsistent, it felt personal. And this wasn't a one-off, it was part of a larger pattern, game after game, teams pushing the limits of physical aggression against her while the refs refused to step in. You couldn't give her an explanation of why you didn't call the foul. So now we just ignore players. We don't necessarily have a discussion with them. That is clearly showing pure disdain for Caitlin Clark. Like, are you kidding me? You can't even look at her. You can't say a couple words. You can't stand on business a tad bit. Come on, man.
Hitting big shots, dishing out assists, and getting punished for it. The refs basically handed opponents a blueprint: rough her up, and you'll probably get away with it. But here's where it gets deeper. Clark wasn't going into these games at 100.
This year, it took us 4 games for Stephanie White to say, I've had it. It's taken 4 games for Stephanie White to say, you know what? I've had absolute enough. Game 1, okay. Game 2, okay. Game 3, all right. But today was the last straw.
Reports show she'd been dealing with a quad injury since preseason. She was even seen using heating pads courtside during games to keep the muscle from tightening up. So imagine trying to navigate an already brutal schedule while carrying an injury, and on top of that getting mauled night after night with zero protection from the refs. Her body finally said enough.
Quad strain. Now, she was out also with a quad issue in one preseason game, which was the first game that Caitlin Clark had ever missed in her collegiate or professional career, though it was not an in-season game, and that was also due to tightness in her quad.
Nonsense. Watching Clark limp off the court, you couldn't help but feel that this injury wasn't just bad luck, it was a predictable outcome of reckless officiating. The bigger issue here isn't just about a star player missing calls, it's about the risks this sets up for the entire league. Studies consistently show that inconsistent refereeing increases the likelihood of injury. Players start testing limits, physicality ramps up, and when the league's brightest star is the target, it's not just her team that suffers, the whole WNBA takes a hit. Winnable games.
New York Liberty get to the free throw line 32 times. The Indiana Fever this season have a discrepancy -31 when it comes to free throws. That doesn't seem right. And Stephanie White, to her credit, she didn't take long to calling out the nonsense.
What this shows is simple. The refs didn't just fail Caitlin Clark, they allowed an environment where her injury was almost inevitable. And now with Clark sidelined, the Indiana Fever are left to figure out how to move forward. The question is, can they survive without her? Let's talk about what's next for the team if
games. But if anything, this should be a lesson to the league and a lesson to the officiating, because the amount of contact that is allowed without a foul call and the amount of physicality that Caitlin Clark has to battle through being double teamed and triple teamed, and honestly, it's mostly just not being called for these fouls, needs to be assessed.
Off ball, if that's the case, don't do that. What does a team do when the player who makes everything work is suddenly gone? That's the crisis that Indiana Fever are facing right now. Caitlin Clark isn't just their leading scorer, she is their offense through her first 4 games this season. She was averaging 19 points and a league-leading 9.3 assists per game. Think about that.
If it was still lingering, I would much rather sit her for the start of the season than run her off ball and have her doing all this useless crap off ball. Sit her until she's fully 100% healthy. Don't utilize an 80%, 85% Caitlin Clark off ball. If that's the case, don't do.
This isn't hypothetical either. We've already seen it happen. Just look back at their game against the Minnesota Lynx. Last season, Clark was playing, but not at full strength. The Lynx trapped her aggressively, took away her playmaking lanes, and the Fever's offense stalled. They were held to their lowest scoring night of the season, and you could see the frustration on every player's face.
Now, getting into the basketball elements and how this affects the Indiana Fever, it does make me a little worried because the Indiana Fever do not have a backup playmaker anywhere near the level of Caitlin Clark.
And it's not just about scoring. Her leadership on the floor is just as critical when the offense gets bogged down late in games. Clark is the player who takes control, whether it's calling her own number or threading a pass through traffic. She knows how to steady the team. Without her, who's taking that role, who's the voice in the huddle when the game is on the line? That's not an easy question to answer, especially for a young team still trying to find its identity.
Sophie did come in the preseason game where Caitlin Clark was missing, and she did show some glimpses of being able to do it. I saw Sophie kind of taking over against the Liberty, and I did not see those same glimpses. And it is kind of obvious, and it always worries me when Caitlin Clark is not running the point because the team, and I've said this before, the team looks like a train without a conductor.
Headline game in that stretch, a rematch against Angel Reese, a game everyone had circled since the schedule dropped without Clark, though the dynamic changes completely. Instead of a clash of superstars, it's now the Fever scrambling to figure out how to avoid a blowout. The pressure on the rest of the roster is massive, and frankly, it's hard to picture anyone stepping into her role.
Folks, when we took Caitlin Clark out of the game this season, the offense looked like they had no idea what to do. No clue what to do. And now she's injured. Damn it. Damn. Wish her a speedy recovery, of course. But now it's time. Now it's time for everybody and all the new additions to step up.
Headline game in that stretch, a rematch against Angel Reese, a game everyone had circled since the schedule dropped without Clark, though the dynamic changes completely. Instead of a clash of superstars, it's now the Fever scrambling to figure out how to avoid a blowout. The pressure on the rest of the roster is massive, and frankly, it's hard to picture anyone stepping into her role.
Her health is of the utmost importance, 1, to her and her career, 2, to the WNBA's success, and 3, as the key playmaker for the Indiana Fever. I mean, it even shows in how much better Aaliyah Boston is this year. Aaliyah Boston has taken a significant leap in her career, and a lot of it is due to Caitlin Clark finding her, feeding her in the court.
Well, this injury doesn't just put the Fever season at risk, it pulls back the curtain on a bigger issue. How does a league like the WNBA bounce back when one of its biggest stars goes down? The answer to that is complicated, but one thing's clear. Clark's absence will be felt far beyond just her team.
Do I say the obvious? Do I state the obvious now that we've all mourned? Now that we've all mourned and accepted this? This is exactly why people were skeptical about getting Sydney Colson. Because God forbid any of the 4 guards we have get a serious injury, we are severely down.
Caitlin Clark's impact on the WNBA extends far beyond the court. She's not just a star player, she's the central figure driving ticket sales, television ratings, and even the league's economic future. And now with her sideline, the ripple effects are impossible to ignore. For starters, ticket prices for Indiana Fever games have taken a massive hit.
Caitlin Clark sits for 2 weeks. Let's just stop there real quick. She sits for 2 weeks. Folks, I'm not letting you sit for 2 weeks and then the first game back from injury, you're going to go up against Natasha Cloud for 94 feet for 40 minutes. I wouldn't do that as a
24 WNBA games that hit at least 1 million viewers. Last season, Clark was on the court for 21 of them. Her games averaged 1.19 million viewers, compared to an average of just 394,000 for games she That's not a small difference. It's a chasm. Her ability to bring in audiences has carried not just her team, but the entire league into new territory. And now the WNBA is staring at a major question: how can they sustain this momentum while she's out?
I don't know. I kind of think that the Indiana Fever might be looking for some sort of like a backup point guard in the middle of the season, because that is, they are going to most likely make a move mid-season because they did not have the cap space to find anybody to really back Caitlin up, and Sid Colson is not that person. So this could be a wake-up call for the Indiana Fever as well.
Here's just one example of what makes her so essential. Earlier this season, her matchup against Angel reshattered records, drawing 2.7 million viewers, the most for a regular season WNBA game in 25 years. To put that into perspective, those numbers rival what you might see for an NFL playoff game. It's a level of star power the league hasn't seen in decades. And it's not something you can replace overnight. Kane Clark, somebody who was responsible for 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity last season, including revenue from merchandise, ticket sales, and television, is out for a minimum of 2 weeks, more like 4 to 6 with this injury. Analysts are really interested in seeing how the ratings are going to look without Caitlin Clark over the next 2 weeks. The point: if the numbers sink, it'll confirm what many already believe: Caitlin Clark is the golden goose for the WNBA
this season. The only bright side is the timing of the injury, at least for the way that the game is going, because we are all hoping for the best for Caitlin Clark. This is nowhere near the level of an ACL injury, so she can come back and still be like the explosive playmaker, the explosive three-point shooter, the explosive player that she is.
It's not just about ratings and ticket sales, though. Clark has created a whole economic ecosystem around her success. After she was drafted, the Indiana Fever's website saw a 501% increase in traffic, and local hotel bookings now rise whenever there's a Fever home game. There's even a $75 million practice facility being built in Indiana directly tied to the buzz she's brought to the franchise.
The biggest ratings driver in all of TV sports, Caitlin Clark is headed to the injury list for at least 2 weeks. Clark will miss at least the next 2 weeks with a left quadricep strain, marking the first time in her collegiate or professional career that she will miss a non-exhibition game. She was held out of a preseason game earlier this year due to the same injury.
And seeing evaluations take Clark out of the equation, and the league risks losing not just short-term profit, but its long-term ability to grow. The real issue here isn't just that she's hurt, it's what this says about the league's ability to protect its stars. If the WNBA can't find a way to keep players like Clark healthy and visible, they're not just putting individual careers at risk, they're putting the future of the league on the line.
Caitlin Clark is the league's star player, whether you like it or not. It shows in the bottom line. It shows in the revenue. It shows in the viewership numbers. Every which way you turn, it shows. And as the league's star player, she should not be bullied around or ragdolled, just pushed around like she is.
So what now for Caitlin the Fever and this league that leans so heavily on her? It's a question that just got a whole lot harder to answer. Caitlin Clark's injury is more than just a setback for the Indiana Fever. It's a wake-up call for the entire WNBA. When the league's brightest star is sidelined, it's not just bad luck, it's the result of systemic failures in officiating that can no longer be ignored. Protecting players like Clark isn't just fair, it's the league's responsibility to its team, fans, and future.
A split instant, all of it can change. If this injury does anything, it should be a wake-up call to the WNBA, the Players Association, the team owners, that just like that, all this fanfare, all this interest, all this newfound attention on the league can disappear overnight.
Better protection and real accountability must happen now. Will the WNBA fix this before it's too late, or will history repeat itself with another star forced to the sidelines? The next chapter starts now.
Caitlin Clark, somebody who was responsible for 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity last season, including revenue from merchandise, ticket sales, and television, is out for a minimum of 2 weeks. Minimum of 2 weeks, more like 4 to 6. Score's analysis suggests that if Clark simply maintains her current momentum through an expanded 2025 season, her impact on the WNBA's economy could reach $875 million with modest growth and continued fan interest. Brewer believes that number could exceed $1 billion. Brewer is a renowned financial professor who specializes in projecting evaluations and seeing evaluations.